welcome to another roster evaluation video. Today we're going to be doing the offensive line. If you're wondering why I'm off center here in frame, it's because I'm going to do this format a little bit different. Instead of using the whiteboard just as a background thing, I'm just going to put everything in post, and then we'll see if we like this better, because setting up the whiteboard takes a little bit too long, and I don't feel there's enough need for it, at least for videos like this. So we're going to continue on with this, see how it goes, and I'll probably finish out the roster eval videos this way, because after this we've only got tight end, wide receiver, running back, and quarterback, and then we are done. Hopefully I can get all these done before they start making moves. I believe today is the first day that you can start to designate or tag franchise players, so there could be some news coming around the corner. But anyway, today is the offensive line, and this is the video that I least wanted to make, because I'm just tired. I'm just tired of talking about the offensive line. I'm just tired of talking about how we need a guard. I'm just tired of talking about how Riley Reef, played better than I think any of us really expected. And if we lose him to free agency, it's going to be a problem, because there's a chance that Riley Reef could definitely get cut this offseason. He could be a cap casualty if he does not wish to restructure with a 14, I believe a 14, almost $15 million cap hit in 2021. And at the end of the season, we have already discussed the good faith gesture that the Wilf family made by giving Riley Reef the $1 million incentive bonus that he would have hit had he been able to play in week 17. He unfortunately missed that because of COVID. And, that I believe that most of us think was an extension of good faith. Like, here's a good gesture. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate, letting us, screw you in the beginning of the season with a restructure so that we can stay here. Because remember, at the beginning of the season, they basically gave him an ultimatum. Either you take less money to stay here, or we cut you. And it was basically like a week, I want to say maybe even less than a week before the season started. I would have to go back. I did a video on it right before the season began. And then, so he ended up taking the pay cut and staying, and had a really good season. So thank God for that. Otherwise, we would have been in a lot of trouble. So Riley Reef, I think, needs to stay for at least one more year if we want some kind of continuity to actually exist. Mike Zimmer is always preaching continuity, carrying over from the next season, even though he's had 6 different offensive coordinators. There's not much continuity in that. But I think continuity on the offensive line, the fact that we'll have most of the same coaching staff, and really the offensive coordinator this year is kind of the same thing that we had last year, going from Gary Kubiak to his son Clint Kubiak. I don't know how much is going to be different, other than maybe that the 33-year-old Clint Kubiak is going to want to install some different things and new ideas, but who's to say? So Riley Reef is an integral part of this team next year, and if he's not on this roster, I would be concerned. Moving on from Riley Reef, because we have plenty of other players to discuss. Right now up on the screen is, of course, just the players that are currently under contract. We'll get to the free agents here at the end. Moving on to the next guy on the list is, of course, Garrett Bradberry, who has been had his name pop up in recent weeks/months, not for good reasons either, because let's face it, if we want Kirk Cousins, all the Kirk Cousins defenders say, we just got to fix the offensive line, Garrett Bradbury is also a problem. It's not just the guards. It's also Bradbury, because his pass protection is piss poor. Very good in run defense. That's what they drafted him for. But it felt like the year that they drafted him, the 6'3", 300-pound guy out of, where did he go to college? What was it? Was it NC State, or was it, I forget. It was one of the Carolina schools. It was one of the Carolina schools. I forget which one it was, though. But anyway, I digress on that point. Garrett Bradbury's pass protection is a problem if we ever want to let Kirk Cousins cook, as I've heard it described in recent days. Garrett Bradbury is not going to be the one to be able to do that unless he takes some sort of magical step in his development. I just don't see it. So I don't know. I think Garrett Bradbury is looking more and more like a bust every single day. And there's a likely possibility once he reaches the end of his rookie contract that he doesn't come back. If he can't, really fix his pass protection problems, because let's face it, they're problems. And it's not just the guards, it's also him. Moving on, we have, of course, the other tackle, Brian O'Neill, making $2.75 million this year, continues to play on his rookie deal. And the only thing that concerns me is that he's going to be a free agent after this next season. So if he has if he takes the next step this season, then I think he's probably going to. He's going to start. The more that he plays better, let's put it this way: the more that he plays better, the more expensive he's going to get when it comes time to renew his contract. So that's a concern. I think Brian O'Neill is probably the only offensive line draft pick that Rick Spielman has hit on. Ever. I'm not going to bring up everybody, but I mean, come on, the jury is still out on Ezra Cleveland, our next guy, who's, he was drafted as an offensive tackle from Boise State, and then they moved him inside to play guard when Drew Samia was just absolutely crippling things. And he played well. He didn't play good throughout. He wasn't, there was some inconsistencies, but he played well enough. And I think, he did better than I think people expected, switching to a different position in his rookie season. So I'm excited to see Ezra Cleveland in year 2. A lot of this depends on the Riley Reef situation. If Riley Reef stays, Ezra Cleveland will stay on the interior. If he leaves, maybe they kick him out to left tackle. Who knows? Drew Samia also currently under contract, but if Drew Samia is starting week 1 in 2021, we have problems. Let's just put it that way. Udo didn't really play all that much last year, and neither did Zach Bailey, but both are under contract, so I'm going to mention them. So as a whole, the current players under contract, Riley Reef is in a situation where that may not be so for however much longer. All these questions are going to get answered by the time we get to about end of March. And then we're going to start to figure out what they're going to need in the draft, what they're going to need in free agency, because remember, despite being able to work miracles with the salary cap, we are still, treading water as far as that situation goes. We have to clear cap space because we're going to want at least to try to get some free agents to plug these holes, and we're going to want to, sign the rookie class. So we need some money. And yeah, it's a volatile situation right now. Moving on to the current free agents, I don't know if any of these guys are going to be re-signed. I think Brett Jones should probably be re-signed, but even if they do bring him back, I'm questioning what they see in him, because let's face it. I mean, when he got an opportunity to play guard, he played well, and they just didn't seem interested at all in letting him, sort of take over that role. I was screaming at the television some days, like, why is Dakota Dozier still the starting left guard for this team? Give Brett Jones a chance. Like, come on. And they weren't interested in doing that. They want him to be the backup center, and that is it. And it baffles me to no end. Rashad Hill is a decent backup swing tackle. I mean, if you can keep him for a cheap contract, I don't see why not. Dakota Dozier, goodbye. Just goodbye. Literally the worst graded left guard offensive lineman, according to PFF last year. He's not being retained. And then Kyle Hinton, honestly don't know much about him. Not going to sit here and pretend that I do. And that is the offensive line situation for the Minnesota Vikings. So let's put all of that into a summary and then talk about where we go from here. So, summary, offensive line is bad, especially in pass protection. It does well with the outside zone run scheme, which is why they draft and pick the players that they do to start along the line. You see a lot of similarity, 6'6", 300 some pounds. Garrett Bradberry is a few inches shorter than some of the other starters. Riley Reef had a good season. We've talked about this. I think he should be able to stay, but I don't know how he takes a pay cut for the second straight year after that season, when they could just be like, Riley Reef could be like, just cut me, because I'm not taking a pay cut. Either cut me or I'm not playing. And then he could probably get a better deal somewhere else, because good left tackles in free agency are hard to find, especially somebody in his price range. Ezra Cleveland should be good. I'm not worried about him right now. Garrett Bradbury is on the clock. Let's put it that way. Time is ticking, and I think we're going to find out this season is make or break for him. And then as far as the rest of the players go, I mean, we just need upgrades. We have to hit the trenches hard in the draft. We have to. I don't care if it's the first round or the third round. We've got to go interior. Trey Smith, Deontay Brown from Alabama. I think you could get Josh Myers in the 4th and move him inside, or not move him inside, but move him to a guard position, or he could even take over for center eventually if Bradbury totally melts down. Rashaan Slater is the most intriguing first round pick for us at the offensive line position, because he could play guard. He's got the length, I guess is what they call it, or the arms, the arm measurements to be able to switch from guard to tackle and vice versa. So if Riley Reef stays, Then you got Riley Reef. You get Rashaan Slater, Garrett Bradberry, Ezra Cleveland, Brian O'Neill. That sounds better to me on paper, even though it's mostly the same parts. But I think the left guard position, which is so detrimental to everything they wanted to do last year, any sort of upgrade is a tremendous upgrade from where we were. As far as free agency, I've heard a lot about Thuney being the coveted guard free agent, but I don't. It depends on where we sit in the salary cap position once free agency begins. I'm more focused on the draft. I think it's going to depend on what we get at 14 overall and whether or not Rick Spielman trades back to try to get some capital return from the Yannick Ngakoue trade that he messed up. So in my mind, this has to be the year. Ride or die, Rick Spielman, lay your cards out on the table. Prove to us that you can draft offensive linemen, because that's how it's done. Now, I will say this to end the video, that I do not want to draft an Elijah Vera Tucker, in the first round. I don't want a Wyatt Davis in the first round. I don't want an interior offensive lineman in the first round if it's not Rashaan Slater. If it's Christian Darrisaw and we still have Riley Reef on the roster, I don't know what that does. If it's Jalen Mayfield and we still have Riley Reef on the roster, I don't know what that does. If Riley Reef is off the roster come the draft, come the first day, and we get a Christian Darrisaw, I'm happy. That's fine. It's totally cool. But if Riley Reef is still on this roster by the draft time and we're taking tackles that can't move into guard, I'm going to question things. And I don't think Elijah Vera Tucker at 14 overall is good value. I think at 14 overall, if you're drafting in the top 15, you need playmakers. So you need somebody that's going to make a difference. Like if somebody falls, like a Micah Parsons or a Kyle Pitts or Devontae Smith, somebody like that. I don't think Elijah Vera Tucker at 14 is good value. Trade down, get him in the 20s. I'm cool with that. So that is our look at the Vikings offensive line heading into free agency and the NFL draft for the 2021 offseason. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the players that we should retain, the players we should cut. Who do you want to see on the offensive line to start week 1 for the Minnesota Vikings in 2021? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.